Welcome to the LeaderTreks Youth Ministry Trainingcast with Doug Franklin, where we help youth workers like yourself be intentional. Welcome to the LeaderTreks Youth Ministry Trainingcast. I'm Taryn.
And I'm Doug.
And we're really glad that you are joining us today.
Still seems goofy to me, a little cheesy, the opening, but that's okay. That's okay.
Sometimes you got to go with what works.
I know. And just remembering how to say LeaderTreks Trainingcast all in one.
Yeah.
That's I know.
If you want a really good challenge, and if you want to get tongue-tied, say it 10 times fast.
Yeah, it's not
and
good.
You'll understand the struggle that we feel.
We got to start
every
with
time.
a better meeting for a better name, I think.
Better meeting for a better name. All right, I'll schedule. I'll schedule that meeting. We'll take your submissions. Just know that it needs to include LeaderTreks.
Yeah.
And probably youth ministry and
the idea
probably
that,
Trainingcast.
And probably the concept is that the video can be used as a training and as good information. I don't know.
Yep.
The idea
It's
was there.
training you, and you can use it to train other people.
Exactly right. That's why you get a PDF at the end that you can use as a discussion guide with your adult volunteers or student leaders or whatever we're talking about.
So now that you've heard us ramble to introduce this particular training cast, you're probably wondering, what in the world are we talking about today? We are going to talk about how to attract the best volunteers in your youth ministry. And like us, you guys have probably heard the kind of one of the oldest jokes in youth ministry, that because we can't get a single volunteer, we will take any person who is breathing. Sign them up.
It is a joke, but it also has some truth in it, I would imagine, too.
I think it's a reality for a lot of youth workers. We are tapped out. We need people to help us, and they're not exactly lining up at the door to volunteer in the youth ministry. But Doug, give us a little bit of insight. It's a joke, but it's also a little bit dangerous if we do accept any volunteer who is breathing into our ministries.
Yeah, we got to be really careful. Obviously, there's people out there that want to hurt kids. There's people out there that want to take advantage of them. So we got to be really careful about that. We got to know something about their background. We got to know something about how they work with other people. We got to check on chemistry. I mean, we got the danger areas, but chemistry is a big one as well, too. How are we all going to work together? Do they have the patience to work with students? Big one. You know, somebody with anger issues that's working in youth ministry, that's a bad move. That overnight can turn very bad very quickly. So we got to be careful of those things. So the danger things are big problems. Also, too, is whenever you're running an organization, and if you have volunteers in your youth ministry, you're running an organization, people problems will always be your biggest problems. I say this all the time. We run mission trips. We've run, thousands of mission trips. And the reality is that the biggest problem we ever have is with adults. It's not with students. So you got to make sure that you got the right adults. It's really important. It actually is what makes the youth ministry go. The wrong adults is what actually kills the youth ministry. So it is a big deal.
Sure. So Doug, set me up for success. I'm a youth worker. I'm in the process of recruiting adult volunteers, and I want to do an interview. I want to sit down and I want to do an interview in an attempt to not take anybody and everybody. How do I run that interview? What questions do I ask?
I found that there's 3 questions that you can ask that really get to the heart of things. Now, anybody can know anybody in an interview. You know what I mean? That's how you got the job, right? But no, I'm just kidding. But you have to be really careful. So these are 3 questions that I've developed over time that I think really get to the heart of the matter. First one is a courage question. Do you have the courage to build a relationship with a student? The reason I ask it this way is because I want them to know that I know that it's hard to do. And that it's going to take somebody who has a lot of courage to be able to do it. And I find that when I put the word courage into that question, instead of saying, hey, are you okay with building some relationships with students? Everybody goes, yeah, I'm fine with that. When I say, do you have the courage to do it? They usually look at me and they're like, why? Is it really hard? Yeah, it's really hard. It's really difficult. It's really messy. Students are really hurting, and having a relationship with them means you take phone calls late at night. It means that you're there whenever they need you. It means that you don't judge them. You listen. It means a lot of things. And do you have the courage to do all that? Because what I find is that most adults are scared of students. Not scared like they're going to hurt me, but scared like I don't understand them. I don't get their culture. I don't get their music. I don't get their food. I don't get how they say the word like 6 times in every sentence and they still understand one another. Like, I don't get it. And so sometimes that creates a barrier of, we're very different. I can't build a relationship with you. I can't learn anything from you. You probably can't learn anything from me. So I'm just going to tell you when to go to the bathroom, when not to go to the bathroom, when you can go and when you can stay. And they become rule makers instead of relationship builders. And so do you have the courage to go past those feelings of difference and move to find things that are common ground, that are shared interests, so that you can build a relationship that will actually lead to that student growing in their relationship with Christ? That takes courage. Do you have that kind of courage?
What I like about this question is it gets really clear about what an adult volunteer's role is.
Yeah.
That you as the youth worker aren't asking them for, say, logistical help or support to drive the vans. You're asking for a mentor, small group leader, somebody who's going to dive in deep with students. This question makes that really, really clear.
Yeah, because if they're thinking that youth ministry is about all the logistics, they're going to say, wait a minute, I didn't know this was part of the deal, right?
Yep.
That's a great point. You make a really good point. You should be doing the training test.
All right, give me another question.
When I think about this one, I think this is one that's really hard. But are you willing to build a partnership with parents? And this, I think, for adult volunteers is really important. We've oftentimes thought in youth ministry that the youth worker, the youth director, or the lead volunteer should be the one who builds the relationship with parents. But the reality is today is our adult volunteers need to be building those partnerships with parents as well too. Yeah. So are you willing to call on parents? Or were you willing to reach out? Are you really willing to check in with that single mom? Are you willing to get involved in that messy divorce that's going on with one of your kids and say, listen, I don't want to take sides, but I want to help. You know, I want to help drive your student if they need a ride. I'm willing to do some things to help out. So are you willing to build a partnership with parents? I find that right away, adults look at me and they're like, I was kind of interested in helping the kids, you know? And you're like, yeah, I know, but today we're all about family ministry. Today we're all about Deuteronomy 6 and this whole idea that the parents are the primary faith influencers and that we as youth workers are coming alongside them and we're supporting them in what they're doing with their children. And in some cases when they're not believers and they're not doing anything of faith with their kids, we step in, become those primary faith influencers. But we really want to know, are you willing to go the long road and build a relationship and partner with those parents?
I appreciate this question, especially for the young people who many of us have serving in our youth ministries. I think about college students and recent college graduates. When they think about youth ministry, they may have in their mind that they want to mentor students. They may have in their mind that they want to come on a Tuesday, Wednesday night, and they want to play games and they want to have fun. But they may not have thought this far along the road of what their role looks like.
Exactly right. And I think there's this great moment where you as an adult volunteer are standing on the curb on Tuesday night when moms and dads are picking up their kids. Yep. And you're standing out there with Junior and mom and dad drive up and you're like, hey, my name's Doug. I just want to introduce myself for a minute. I'm your son's small group leader and we get to hang out a lot, but I thought it'd be really important that you knew my face and that you could see me and that we could say hi to one another. Would there ever be a time where we get a cup of coffee or sit down or talk, maybe at church, maybe at the end of church? I'd love just to get to know you, hear your story, and I'd love for you to hear why I want to serve your students. I think that gives a lot of trust to parents, but it also says to parents, you're really important to me. Yep. And I think that that goes a long way.
All right, so far we have, do you have the courage to build a relationship with students? Are you willing to partner and form a partnership with parents? What's a final capstone question for this interview?
This is the $1 million question. Are you willing to follow my leadership? Because I think that a lot of times where youth ministries break down is that they don't have the proper structure with one person leading and everybody else following the vision that one person has. That's the best way to lead. That doesn't mean you don't work collaboratively on solving problems and on ideas. But if there's a volunteer on your team that doesn't believe in your leadership, They're going to tell other people that. Their body language is going to show that. They're going to disapprove of every decision you make, and it's going to become an anchor on your ministry that's going to drive you under, and it's going to be no fun, no joy, and it's going to be horrible. So I ask the question all the time, are you willing to follow my leadership? Are you buying in with me on a regular basis? I don't just ask this question in this initial interview. I ask this question ongoing, because I really want to know if people are buying into me and they're buying into what it is that I'm trying to accomplish and do with students. Now, you may be sitting there going, I don't know that I've ever given them anything to buy into. Well, if that's the case, then you need to clarify your leadership a little bit, step it up a little bit, and be the leader that God's called you to be. I think that's sometimes is what we need to hear. I know in my life I've needed to hear that from time to time. But I want my adult volunteers to know that I have a plan, that I'm following that plan, that God gave me that plan, and that I am doing what God has called me to do. I think adults are looking to follow a visionary like that, someone who's doing God's work and they want to get on board with it. It's attractive. But if someone's coming into the youth ministry and they're saying, I'm coming into the youth ministry because I want to check up on you. I want to see what you're doing. I want to make sure you're doing it right. I'm telling you right there, that is going to be a disaster. Right. So I'm asking the question, do you want to follow my leadership? I find that most people say yes, but then they want to think about it for a minute. And when they really think about it, I think what you're really inviting them to do is to join a team that you're the leader of, and that's important. Because when there's no leader, people fill the void. They become the leader, and the group is going this way, and it's going this way, and it's going that way, and a house divided won't stand. Right. So, are you willing to follow my leadership? And if they are, awesome. Be the kind of leader worth following. Be the kind of leader where people say, you know what, I'm over there in Doug's youth ministry, and it's really great because Doug's got a real clear vision for what he's doing. But when people are ready and willing to follow you, and you're all on the same page, going in the same direction, you'll be wildly effective.
Doug, in closing, I want to highlight something that you just mentioned, that this is a question that you keep asking. This is a question that you come back to a couple of months later, 6 months later, when all of a sudden this volunteer is starting to veer off course. And you bring them back to this question of, are you willing to follow my leadership? Because I'm headed this way and I see you headed this way. I can't have you going rogue in my ministry. And if we need to part ways, we need to part ways.
I think it's so important. And I think that actually formulates a good discussion or a good, healthy confrontation. Yes. And that can really keep you from a lot of sleepless nights.
Very much. We hope that this has been a helpful resource for you today. A couple of questions that can help you attract the best volunteers and help you be a little bit more discerning in the process of who you recruit into the youth ministry. But we'll see you next time on the LeaderTreks Youth Ministry Trainingcast.
We'll see you soon.